The Minnesota Vikings have a golden opportunity as more reports across the NFL have revealed that a major signing is incoming for the Minnesota Vikings. We're going to be breaking down that as well as going over a very interesting report going over the Vikings quarterback room and another addition that may be made to this roster. We have a lot of stuff to cover here today in this video, ladies and gentlemen. Before we jump into it, though, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We had a lot of news coming as the season is getting closer and closer, and the Vikings are trying to finalize this roster. Just over 75% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. We want to get you all your news as it happens, so be sure to go and hit that sub button if you haven't already. But let's jump straight into this video, going to our first topic here today. On Monday, the Packers released a former All-Pro cornerback, Jaire Alexandre, 7-year career, a very, very much rival for the Minnesota Vikings, and in specific, Justin Jefferson, All-Pro, Pro Bowl selections. However, the last few years, the injuries have been there for him. We saw a few gaps in his game the last few seasons. I think a lot of that was due to injuries, however, and the Vikings have been interested in another cornerback with this group. They're looking to add another veteran, and now with a name like Jaire Alexandre coming into this lineup and coming into this list of opportunities, the Vikings have the golden opportunity to make this cornerback room even better. As you see the last paragraph here say, the Vikings showed last year they have no issue taking in some teams' broken toys, turning them into their own pieces, and getting more juice out of them. They did it last season with Stephon Gilmore. He had mild success, and the key for Alexander is to make a difference, though he must get back healthy. And that is really the one concern for the Minnesota Vikings right now about a Jaire Alexandre signing is his health. He has not been able to stay healthy the last 2 seasons, and although we've seen that with Vikings players themselves, going out for a guy like Jaire Alexandre, who certainly will be commanding a bit more money than a normal, depth piece on this cornerback room, is something that the Vikings seriously need to consider. But when we go and take a look at Jaire Alexandre and kind of look at how he would fit into this lineup, we really take a look at the cornerback room and the lack of, I would say, veteran experience there immediately. And that's one thing that we've been able to see from the Vikings. They were talking about Shaq Griffin. They were talking about Stephon Gilmore. 2 players that could come back into this lineup, sign at a later date to add more to this cornerback room, add to the secondary, bring in a veteran name. And when we look at it, realistically, I don't want to go too far into it, but Mekhi Blackmon, Harrison Smith, Josh Metellus, realistically, are the only few players who are serious veterans at this point. Byron Murphy Jr. is going to be very, very soon, especially after signing that big contract. But coming into the season, we're not the oldest secondary, which is very good, but also you want to have that veteran leadership there to be able to guide these younger players that we now have into the spot that we want to see them. And, this is a big thing that I want to think the Vikings are trying to get in, trying to fix here with this lineup. And even with Jeff Okudah, I think is a very good and similar example to a guy like Jaire Alexandre. He is a player that has been good in the past, cannot stay healthy, and now bringing him in this lineup, putting him in the right system, I don't want to say teaching him the right ways, because he's been good with other teams as well, but putting him in a system where, our medical staff is top-notch, if the best in the NFL, I will argue. This is exactly what a spot like Jaire Alexandre would need. Not just that, but it also takes away the stress of having to see Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson play around him here in this season. So I want to know what you think. We made a video on this before, now the speculation of a possible trade, but now that Jaire Alexandre is released, it is a much easier option for the Vikings to go out here and make this signing. And as we know, they're not afraid to go out and acquire some rival players to add to this team to make them better. So let me know what you think about that, about him adding to this Brian Flores defense. But we have another very interesting tidbit of news here. And when it comes down to the whole idea of what we've been able to see with the quarterbacks, there's been a lot of speculation about what is going to happen, if anything else, before the start of the season. Now, be prepared, because I want to know what you guys think in the comments below here about this. But a recent report has linked Will Levis to the Minnesota Vikings, and you see one trade idea floated by Heavy.com's Ann Erickson. Consider the possibility of the Vikings landing the 2023 second-round pick, Will Levis, someone who was originally projected and thought to go somewhere in the first round, waited until day 2 to be drafted. And while Levis has his blemishes, he has more physical talent than Howell or Brett Rypien or rookie Max Brosmer, prompting Erickson to suggest a day 2 or 3 pick could be enough to pry Levis away from the Tennessee Titans, especially after drafting Cam Ward, who is going to be their starter, no doubt. There is some, ideas there that we're going to see the Titans trying to put him in a bit of a rivalry there, trying to get someone in to a number 1 spot. No spots guaranteed, but I think we can certainly say confidently that it will be Will Levis. It's time to sit on the bench behind Cam Ward. So This is a very interesting decision when it comes down to it, because we've looked here at the quarterbacks. We've looked at what the possibilities are, and some reports saying that you may not be willing to trust JJ McCarthy here about this starting quarterback. He missed last season. The injury was there. I personally, right now, trust him 100%. Would I like a bit of a veteran backup over Sam Howell? Yes, but I wouldn't be mad with Sam Howell being the backup for this team. And when we go and look at the quarterbacks that we have here, JJ McCarthy, Sam Howell, Brett Wright, but it's not the worst room that we've been able to see. I do understand the idea, the concern, the little bit of uncertainty surrounding JJ McCarthy, where we want to see him play, how we want to see him play. Will he be able to go out here, confidently play these games and stay healthy, stay, locked in? I think that even though he didn't play last season, of course, due to injury, it was a big beneficial season for him to sit behind Kevin O'Connell, sit behind Sam Darnold, see how he transitions Sam Darnold into an elite quarterback, and go and learn this team before getting thrown at the wolves. And especially with the way that this offensive line has been restructured here in this offseason, this is certainly one that I think JJ McCarthy is really going to be very pleasantly surprised when he comes into this lineup, that it is very different than last year because it is built around him. It is way better, and it will be a lot of help to him, not just being out there throwing to the lethal weapons that he has. And going to look at, Will Levis' stats. I don't think Will Levis is really the guy, even though he's a big quarterback. He's a very talented quarterback, although he didn't show it in Tennessee. We were able to see what he was able to bring in college. He's a guy that was not put in the right system, didn't have the offensive line, didn't have the weapons, and it went to show that he wasn't really ready for the NFL at that point. But give him Kevin O'Connell. Give him a backup position behind JJ McCarthy. Two quarterbacks who I believe are same age, pretty close if not. There's a lot of similarities between these two when it comes down to it, even though it may not look like it on the surface. And I think that Kevin O'Connell, we've been able to see it in the past, could certainly change around this entire narrative of the quarterback room, the uncertainty that reporters and analysts are saying about this room, and really putting the Vikings down here in a very interesting spot. So I want to know what you guys think about that as well. Let me know what you think about all of this, actually, because we know that Jaire Alexandre, certainly an interesting option here when it comes down to it. Not being able to stay healthy, 7 games in the last few seasons. For the year before, 16 in 2022, hasn't been able to stay healthy, but we know that there's a lot of things happening. And one more quote I wanted to pull up regarding the Jaire Alexandre kind of idea. We've seen some reports saying that people were not exactly ready to see this cornerback room, I should say, the secondary, come out here and be willing to go up against some of the NFL's top offense. This is what Mekhi Blackmon had to say, the veteran. We got a real good room. I see a lot of stuff on Twitter. Y'all know a lot of people are concerned about our room. I would say we have a real good room. So this team's confident, of course, as we expected. I think this is exactly the stuff we kind of wanted to hear, that we knew was going to come out at some point about this room. So we got to take it with a grain of salt. Jaire Alexandre, although he's very good, may not be able to stay healthy, may not fit in this room specifically with the chemistry and everything, but I still want to know what you guys think about these reports that we have here today, because a lot of stuff is starting to come out once again before the start of the season. We're going to have it here all for you as it happens, but that is all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out, though. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.